Hi guys, and welcome back to IBRACORP. What a pleasure to have you guys here. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to all those who have been visiting the channel, subscribing and liking. We really appreciate your support. I hope you guys liked the last video, and I did promise you this one, which is coming out now. We've done it in collaboration with the developers over at Notifiarr, purely because obviously the last video we did, which is still relevant, but it's a year old now, so things have changed on the Notifiarr front, the UI, how it works, and actually a lot of improvements since the last one we did. So it definitely deserves a revisit, which is why I thought you guys would really enjoy this one. A big thank you to Notifiarr, the developer of Notifiarr. Thank you for helping out. He's also provided a lot of the parts that he wants to be shown in the video, so that way we can, get it as accurate as possible and get you guys content that makes sense when you're looking at it and looking at the product that we're actually supporting as well. And also a big thank you to Captain, who developed the client you run locally to do all the app-to-app communication. Now this is very important because in the new version, we don't have to worry about opening ports anymore. We've got a whole tunneling sort of system happening, and that's making a huge difference to how we can set this up, making it a lot easier for you to get started. So I know your time is valuable, so let's just jump into it and get started. I guess the first thing which might be useful for you guys, especially for those who don't know what Notifiarr is. Notifiarr originally started as a product that, well, it notifies you of stuff. It has a lot of different integrations, plugins, connections to different apps and products, and it gives you those notifications across various different platforms. Most notably though, will be the Discord server notifications, especially for those running Plex. And I'm here on the GitHub page, as you can see, Notifiarr, and this is the project. Feel free to sponsor it if you'd like to support the project. It's really helpful for the developer. And as you go down, you'll see that there's various different options to install Notifiarr and get it running. You've got Docker, Windows, Unraid, you've got the whole lot. And it can be overwhelming when you're first looking at this page, which is why we like to make this video, just to make sure that you guys really understand how it works, because the first time I looked at it, I thought it was overwhelming as well. And I think that's something we can really clean up this time around. But as you can see, all the different services it supports, it has a huge list, Plex, Tortuli, all this kind of stuff. And it doesn't just notify you, it has other functions as well. So it's a beast of an application, and the fact that it can call home to your server and get all that information live means you can access it anywhere as well, as it's trying to send it to all your different platforms. But the main purpose of today's video is we're going to be following the TRaSH Guides. Now, you guys would have seen our video on atomic links and using the TRaSH Guides. And I've had a lot of people comment, what is the TRaSH Guides? I maybe didn't understand the video correctly. TRaSH is it's a person, and he's put in a lot of effort in collaboration with various different people in our communities and produce what they call the TRaSH Guides. Now, a lot of people use this as their so-called Bible in terms of setting up home automation and media content. And it really targets a lot of these media automation apps that we use day in, day out, being Radarr, Sonarr, Prowler, Bazaar, and all the rest, and giving you optimal settings based on community feedback, help you get your system up and running with the best settings possible. Now, one of the big things to note when using the TRaSH Guides, or the biggest benefits I should say, is that when you are using these guides, it's teaching you a lot about how to get the right content for you from the start. Now that means when you're getting content and it's not refined enough, you might end up with formats and sizes that don't suit you. So then you're going and using other tools to try and change them or convert them to the size and quality that you want. When you're actually better off getting the content in the right format and the right size, right codec, for example, all from the beginning. And that's what this is for. So if we go here, for example, in Radarr, you can see we've got custom formats and quality profiles. And he's giving you all this information, which is so helpful. Setting up all this stuff is absolutely key. But if you're following this through manually, which you're more than welcome to use, it's completely free to access this stuff. And again, I really encourage you to support TRaSH and the guides, as well as Notifiarr, where you can. What we're going to be using Notifiarr for is automating this for us. So we're actually going to have it sync up with TRaSH Guides. Take these settings that you're seeing here, the ones that suit you, of course, that you want, and sync that with your applications like Sonarr and Radarr for you, all on your behalf. So that means every time TRaSH updates his guides, updates his settings based on the community feedback he gets, those settings can then automatically sync over to you, so you're up to date on those formats as well, rather than having to remember to manually go and check often. Now, if you prefer doing it manually, that's always an option, but we like to automate things and speed up our time. As a subscriber said to me the other day, we're no longer beginners in this field, we're starting to step into the more intermediate advanced space. So I encourage you to really give this a thought and give it a try because it's going to help you in a lot of ways. So I'll have the links in the description for the TRaSH Guides website and for Notifiarr, of course, and to our previous videos so that you can get across it. But today we're just going to dive right in and get this working and show you how to run it on your own system and how to make the most out of the TRaSH Guides and the Notifiarr application. So let's get into it. First things first, let's go to notifiarr.com. This is the new website. Now, it was always notifiarr.com, but you'll see that the UI has changed quite a bit. It's a lot more modern, a lot more streamlined, and that's going to benefit us as we're making this new video for you guys. So first things first, log in using your account and complete the wizard. Now, if you haven't created an account, you will just obviously create one to start with. It's free to sign up. I will note at this point for everyone watching the video, a very important disclaimer. If you want to use the TRaSH Guides automatic sync function, you need to be a patron supporter of Notifiarr. So please think about it, consider it. If you're not going to be doing that, then maybe just skip this video because obviously it's a feature that's locked behind Patreon. But I can tell you right now, it's worth every penny to support the project. It's going to help your automation a lot. So please consider that. With that said, let's keep going. So the first thing we see is the setup wizard, and it's essential that we follow this to make sure we're linked in with all of our different systems, starting with Discord. So let's go ahead and click link account. And obviously then we want to sign into our Discord account. So go ahead and do that. You can see it's going to give you your permissions that it's going to need. So go ahead and authorize if you're happy with that. And so far it's pretty bare bones. All it's doing is checking what servers you have access to, because then you can pick what server you want to set up with Notifiarr. Now it's picked up my personal server that I have here under my name. I'm going to go ahead and click save. It's also telling us that it can't fetch a channel list. That's because the bot isn't in our server. So as it says in the instructions, we'll invite the bot. Click continue, give it the permissions necessary, and authorize. Now I click save again, and that just resynced, picking up that the bot is in our server. And you can see here's our setup information. So if we drop down on support project, you'll see the options here to do so. Go ahead and support the project however you see fit and what works for you, and then you'll be able to link that with the OAuth section. The first thing we'll do is head to set up the TRaSH integration. So go to setup here in the top left corner and hit integrations. Now with nothing in here, you'll probably see that we don't have any integrations set up. So we'll go ahead and click enable integrations. And you're going to get a very, very large list of all the different integrations that Notifiarr supports. And as you can see, it's quite a bit. Watchtower for our Docker updates, we can monitor that. We can monitor Reddit, we can monitor Radarr, we can monitor Radarr, Prowler, Plex Meta Manager. The list is just absolutely huge. And it's really worth looking into this, guys. It's really, really cool. But for our purpose today, we're going to be setting up Sonarr, Radarr, Plex, and TRaSH. So let's enable those. Once you've toggled them on, go ahead and click save. Now, once you've enabled the integrations, it's going to take you to your profile where you can grab your API key. So scroll down and you can see we have our API key here. Now, don't worry, I'll be generating this again after the video. So this is not a live API key for me. Now, if you wanted separate API keys for all the different apps, you can do that as well. That's an option. But just for the sake of saving some time, we're going to use the one. So in this part of the video, we now install the client. Now, the client is used as the communicator, if you will, to the web interface, and that reports everything that's on our server. Now, you can install it various ways on different systems, which is all on their GitHub that I showed you earlier. But for today's video, we're going to be using unraid. So on unraid, go ahead to the apps store. You'll find Notifiarr, and then you can go ahead and install it. And because I'm also using the same port on my other one, I'm going to be changing that to 5455 just to differentiate between the two, making sure my app data is the correct location that I like, and then we can go ahead and start it up. Now we see that it's stopped. So the first thing we'll do is just click on it and go to logs, and you can see that it's spat out a admin user password, which is right here. So let's copy that. Now I've accidentally skipped a step here. I should have put the API key, which is the one we copied from Notifiarr, into this field and then run it and then got the password. But now that I've got the password, it won't print it again. So I'm just going back and adding this, and I've got my password saved. Go ahead and click apply. So there we go, that's done. We'll open the web UI and you can see that it gives us the client interface. So basically we sign in, the username being admin, and the password is the password that was printed in the original logs. Go ahead and click login. So here we are, we're signed in, it's working fine, it's telling us it's valid, the API code is valid, and we can now go on to the next step. So first thing we'll do is configure our star apps, that's being Radarr, Sonarr, etc. So go ahead and click on star apps, And you can see we've got those listed out here for us. So what we'll do is click the plus icon. We'll call this, well, we can just call it Sonarr, but if you have a reason to have something else, you can do that. And we want the URL and the API key. Now, preferred to use the local URLs. If you need to, for whatever reason, use a fully qualified domain name URL, you can use that, but preferably local. So this client should be running local anyway, so it shouldn't be an issue for us. So I'm going to go ahead and add that for Sonarr, Radarr, and maybe even Prowler, and I'll come back to you once I'm done. So you can see I've got my information entered with the local URL and port and the API key. Now, if you want to use the username and password, the explanation here explains why you would need that for doing your database corruption checks, which is pretty handy if you want to use that. But I'm just going to use the API in this case. Now, once we've got our information input for Radarr and Sonarr and any other apps you want, just click the double check marks and that'll tell us whether it's successful, as you can see down here. And then make sure you save and reload just in the bottom left corner here. So now our config is saved. What we can do then is go to the web UI and continue with the setup. So we're back on Notifiarr.com, and what we'll do quickly is just click refresh, make sure we're up to date. And you can see we get a big thumbs up here saying our client is configured, and that's a good sign. So that's communicating back to our client on base. So what we'll do is set up Radarr. Go ahead and click the little settings icon here. And you can see now that we have a client running, we can then click on Add Notifiarr Connect. Now that's going to allow it to connect to our instance and be able to manage it remotely. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see down here, it says Added Connect to Radarr Instance 1. So what we want to do is come down to Triggers. And this is what we're going to configure to be our notifications, if you will. So let's say movie added, grab, maybe I want to know about any updates. Perhaps I want to know when a database is being backed up. We can configure all sorts of colors, and we can configure the type of ping that we want to set up. So in my server, I might have several users and several different roles, in which case I will tell it which role to use. So feel free to customize it any other way you like. You've got various different options here you can use. And once you're happy with it, go ahead and save the configuration. And now repeat the same thing over for Sonarr. So go to settings, we'll make sure the Notifiarr webhook is enabled, and you might have some of these going here. Once you're happy with it, go ahead and click save. Now keep in mind, we also added Plex in here as well while we were adding these to our local client configuration under media apps. I've gone ahead and added Plex. You can also add Tortoli if that's something you want to do as well. So since we have Plex in the client, we'll go ahead and click settings here on the Notifiarr.com UI as well. And you see there's some instructions here to add Plex. So we'll make sure we'll follow this. In Plex, add a webhook that points to this address with your Plex token. So we open Plex, we go to settings, and we've got webhooks over here. We'll go ahead and click on add webhook, and we paste that URL that we got before. Now you need to get your Plex token. I'm not going to show you how to do that today, purely because there's various different methods, but there is a Plex article explaining how to do that. I'll try and remember to add that to the description so you can just follow that. And now that we've done that, also make sure that your port that you put in is correct, depending what you configured for the client, and that your token is correct as well. Repeat the process, find any other settings that you want to configure here, whatever suits you, of course, and then you can go from there. You've got all sorts of different stuff, including the ratings, client settings, etc. Whatever suits you, go ahead and click save. And now finally, the most important integration we have today, I think, in my opinion, is the TRaSH Guides. So as you can see, we've opened up the integration settings for the TRaSH Guides, and it's looking like it's hooked up correctly to our client. I've come down, and as you can see, scroll down, pick an interval. After you save it and reopen the window, we'll get all the settings loaded. So I've selected the monthly sync. Again, it's a Patreon feature. If you want instant sync, that's also there as well. I've clicked save. We can close this and reopen it again. And now you can see the real benefit of this entire setup, which is one of the coolest things I think about this process. Now at first you might be a little overwhelmed by all the different options and settings in here. And that's for good reason, because you're not supposed to just check everything. Trust me, I've done it and I instantly regretted doing so. So just take your time and understand what's happening. All the explanations are on TRaSH Guides website as well, but Nitsuo has done a great job of trying to make that easier for you here. So what you can do is use the interactive flowcharts. If I just click on that, you'll then see this dialog box come up and allowing you to pick which workflow you want to follow. So let's say in this case, we'll say default. Once that's open, you'll be able to clearly see where you want to go and which formats will suit you best. So just follow the flowcharts. Say this one, for example, do you want untouched video? No. Do you want 4K? No. Then you'll land on this yellow node. Simply by clicking on the node, it'll bring up the custom format that you've selected, and you just literally toggle it on. Now, as you can see, after you toggle, the custom scores will be saved, and you need to click Save All on the sync page to apply everything. You couldn't make it any easier if you tried. So make sure you use the flowcharts, it's really going to help you out. Two very important check marks that we want to be using, and this is based on TRaSH's recommendations for our naming, are these two here. So be sure to check those. I think it's going to be very beneficial for you, and TRaSH himself recommends you use these options as well. So first things first, you can see we've got Radarr and Sonarr down the side. So very different things, starting with Radarr. So if we look at Radarr, we can look at the quality options, for example. These are recommendations by TRaSH. Now you've got several different options here. If you wanted movie, or if you wanted this one, or if you wanted Ultra HD, depending what you prefer, you can have it sync those quality profile settings for you. Now, I know personally it's annoying to try and set these, so having it set it for us is awesome. Once you're happy with it, make sure you're saving as you go. And then it might be a good idea to actually go to Radarr and check that those settings are, passed across correctly. They should be, but you can't be too careful. Up the top, we've got our notifications. So depending what you want to be notified about as well, you can have that set up there. Coming back down to sync for our quality profiles. And then I've got two options here. Do I want to sync the custom format? You can tick yes. Do you want to sync the score? We can tick yes as well, depending. Now, these are going off my profile names. I'll show you this in Radarr now, just to give you an idea of what these are. So you can see I'm in my Radarr. Now, these are the ones that I use and the ones that I've checked on. So don't necessarily follow this, guys. Make sure it suits your environment and what you want to get out of your content. But this is what I've got. And you can see it creates these custom formats for us. So if I open up one of them, remember, this is all done automatically. I didn't have to type any of this in. It just does it for us. It creates the custom format. Then if you go to your profile, so let's say I've got these two profiles here, and I open up that, these are the custom formats that we just showed you. And each of those custom formats has a score. Now that score is customizable. You can make it whatever you like. We also have a score here on the minimum and upgrade until scores. And these all have their own weight, if you will. So they're weighted differently on what we prefer to have. So when Radarr's looking for this content, it's going to go against the score and see which one has the highest score to help select automatically the best one that suits what we need, which is awesome. So when we come back and we look at the score and we're saying we want to sync that score, it's saying, do we want to sync this score automatically at 500? Now, if you don't want it to sync with the recommended scoring, you can just put that in yourself. So then uncheck those and don't let it sync it. But you'd probably still want to sync the actual custom format. So you can see how it gives you both options there. Now the same goes for Sonarr. You've got your quality, naming, and depending what version of Sonarr you've got two different options here. In the latest version 4 of Sonarr, it uses custom formats, which allows it to be consistent with our settings with Radarr. And custom formats are far more advanced than the version 3 options, which is just the RP settings. Okay, so we can sync some of those if you're using version 3, but I highly encourage you to look at using version 4, which gives you a lot more options. So you can see here under Sonarr with quality, I've got it syncing our quality settings. I've also got our naming scheme as well. So you can actually pick from various different options. Now, currently I'm using this, which matches TRaSH's options. But maybe you're using Jellyfin, which might prefer a different format for your content. So make sure you can check that as well. Same goes for our season folders, etc., etc. Now that's going to set those settings in Sonarr and Radarr, but you may have to then go and run the rename function in Sonarr and Radarr to make sure it's updated to the new naming scheme if you've already got content. That's why I highly recommend following this process when you're first setting up a server or rebuilding a server. It's going to be a lot easier when you're doing it from scratch. But look, that's up to you. If you're going to go back and do it with existing content, I've done that as well, and it's perfectly fine. And there you have it, guys. That's setting up Notifiarr for our seamless server notifications. It's such a breeze. Whether you're managing Sonarr, Radarr, Plex, or even the TRaSH integration, this step-by-step guide should help you navigate the setup process with ease. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and a subscribe for more tutorials. As always, feel free to leave any questions or comments down below. If there's anything you're not sure about, be sure to jump into the Discord for both TRaSH, Notifiarr, and ours, and feel free to ask away you should be able to get the help you need. You have all the links underneath each of these cards to take you exactly where you need to go. So for TRaSH Guides, for example, all his links are here. You've got your Sonarr, Radarr, and you've also got assistance for Notifiarr here as well. If we just go to help, it'll give you all the links that you need to get started. And a big thank you to Notifiarr for linking our videos here. We really appreciate them. We hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next IBRACORP video.